Okay, so, are you with me? All right. This you could look at fairly similarly, little r, big R, but this time, because it's oriented this way, when I go to find the height of this, the thickness instead of being dy would probably be more like dx, right? The end result then would be fairly similar. Pi, oops, I'm rushing ahead of myself. I'm just going to go here. Big R squared minus little r squared d x, x. All right, cool? Okay, the calculus will then be when we add many of these, infinitesimally many. Consider this region here. If you had this region and it was revolved about the x-axis, and that orange region would come out of the board and back down to the reflection, the corner of which would be 2, -4, I suppose. And then it would go back through the board into Mr. Carlson's room and then back to where it came from. So it would make a solid of revolution like that, yeah? Where if you were to look at it from the outside, then what would it look like? And I'm not talking from above, just like from the side. If you looked at it from this angle, would it just look like a can? Like a cylinder, yeah? Flat sides. But if you were to tilt it so you looked at it from this angle, and it would look inside, there would be this concavity inside, there would be this empty shell. And the volume of that then would be pretty hard to find. You follow? All right then. When we did areas, we estimated area by rectangles. When we do volumes, we estimate volumes by revolved rectangles. If you were to make a few super thin rectangles and then revolve those, this segment revolved would look like that, but then there would be this. There would be this gap inside. And this would be a little gap inside. You can see then that the gap would get bigger and bigger and bigger. I wish I would have made this wider. Okay? Now, in essence then, because the region, as opposed to before, where the region abutted the axis of revolution or adjoined it, and we revolved it, it was just solid disks when we revolved. But now, because the region's got this gap in between where it is and the axis of revolution, we start to get this gap in the volume itself. And we get a washer rather than this. So the volume then would be more like the sum of many washers. Well, surely the sum will be found calculus-wise by what? Derivative or integral? Integral of pi big R squared minus little r squared times heights. That's how we did washers just now. The details then, pi. Let's start with, is the height dx or dy? Because that really governs everything else inside. Do I make it all x terms? What are the limits of integration? That's all about, is it dx or dy? Well, what is the height of each of these cylinders? It's dx. The height is a small change side to side. It's got to be dx. And so that means then that everything is in x terms. Start with the limits. The limits are in x terms. The limits of the region, what are they? 0 to 2. Okay. Big R. Now here's where it helps me to get super heavy on the lines. On this washer, this is big. Let's go. This is big R. Then on this one, this is big R, and then this is big R. Look at those green segments. Constant or varied? Constant. Those big R's are always 4. All right. Now let's look at little r. Now little r, remember, is a reference to the part that's being removed. It's the inside part that's missing. So here's r, here's little r, here's little r. Those red segments, are they constant or varying? Varying. They're varying with how far you have to go till you get the curve. And so that little r is just the curve. Now that's either y or x squared, but because it's dx, I guess we're going to have to use the x form, so x squared. Now, do I need to square that, or does it already have squared? No, you need to square it. It's the radius squared. The radius is x squared, so it's x squared squared. Right? This is pretty easy to antidifferentiate. What's the antiderivative of 16? 16x. What's the antiderivative of x squared squared? 1/5 x to the 5th. Pi out front, 0 to 2. Pi 32 minus x to the, what's 2 to the 5th? 32 fifths. Common denominator is 5. What's 32 times 5? Really? What's 30 times 5? What's plus 2 times 5? 10. What's 150 plus 10? 160. What's 160 minus 32? 128 pi over 5 cubic feet. Okay? Okay. Try, actually, let's make sure we all agree on the graph, and then you'll try it. So, say you have the area enclosed by the log graph, y equals 1, x equals 8. Give me a point on log base 2 of x, please. Pilkington, give me a point on log base 2 of x. Come on, just a point. I'm not...
Oh, 0, 1.
0, 1. Try again. You mean 1, 0?
1, 0.
That's exactly right. Okay. Give me another point on log base 2 of x, please. Somebody. 2, 1. Okay. Give me another one. Holy cow. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 3. My goodness gracious. Okay. So here's log base 2 of x. Y equals 1. Is that a horizontal line or a vertical line, Kenny? Y equals 1. Is that a horizontal line or a vertical line? Horizontal. X equals 8. Is that a horizontal line or a vertical line, Chloe? Vertical. Okay. So that region is this quasi-triangular region here in red. It doesn't say anything about enclosed by the x-axis. It's revolved around the x-axis, but that's not making the region. The x-axis is not making the region. The 3 graphs they give me is that red region. Understood? If I go around the x-axis, then the reflection of that red region would have a reflection and would have a hole right down the middle. When you find the volume of that solid of revolution, you may use your calculator. You may. You have an answer for me? Or not quite? On the AP exam, this is pretty common for your response. The A number one most common mistake is not what of cluelessness, it's forgetting the pie. Okay. The biggest mistake is forgetting the pie. The second biggest mistake is thinking it's this. That is not the same. This is dead wrong. It's not the square of the difference. It's the difference of the square. It's not the square of the difference. It's the difference of the squares. Your answer is approximately
80.1038.
or 104 is fine also. Okay? What is, here is, I'm highlighting big R. Big R, is it constant or varying? Big R is varying. It's constantly the distance to the curve. So big R is log base 2 of x. Little r. Is little r here in green, is that constant or varying? It's constant. It's always the same. Little r is always 1. The limits from 1 to 8, 2 to 8, or 1 to 3? 2 to 8. Okay, are you with me? Okay, now let's talk why. If you are to graph that same region but further over towards the middle, because we're going to need left-hand space in a second here. If I take that same graph that went from 2 to 8 in x, this time though that region is revolving around the y-axis. So its first question is, well, if you revolve the same region, this time though around the y-axis, would the volume be the same? Is it the same kind of figure made?
Yes.
That looks like this.
No.
I say yes, they are not the same. Okay, if they come out the same, it's a total coincidence. Very frequently, most frequently, they are not the same. Okay, now the difference here is because it's around y, the y-axis, we are going to use y. When I use y, how do my slices go? Horizontally or vertically? Horizontally. That's a little counterintuitive that when you use y, you're going horizontally, but it's not so much because of the horizontal, but the thickness is thin vertically. Okay, so when we run rectangles vertically, we're using y. If we revolve those, because there is a gap between the region and the axis of revolution, we are getting washers, not discs. Do you agree with that conclusion? All right then. So it's still volume is pi big R squared minus little r squared times a height, but now the height is dy. All right then. Because it's y, I need limits of integration that are y-ish. Are the limits of integration 2 to 8 needed? What are they? 1, 2, 3. How can we get that? We need to know when log base 2 of x is equal to 1, because y is 1, and that's added. That's actually easy, never mind. And we also need to know when log base 2 of x meets x equal 8. Well, what is log base 2 of 8? 3. Okay. 2 to what power is 8 is 3. Okay, so 1 to 3. Big R. Here's big R. Oops. Take this out. Here's big R. Boom. 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 Big R. Constant or varying? Constant. What's big R? Always 8. Big R is always 8. Don't think diameter, radius, right? Center of the axis to the outside. What about little r? Constant or varying? It's varying. Here's little r, here's little r. It's the horizontal distance to the curve. So I guess it's the curve, but it's got to be in y terms. So what do? Exponentiate, yeah. It's the little r is the curve in y terms, so we exponentiate, and instead of log base 2 of x, we call the little r 2 to the y. You can throw that on your calculator and call it good. Try this one on your own, please. Try this one that's y on your own. I'm okay if you use your calculator for this one. Typically, if you revolve around the y-axis, you want to leave good room on the left-hand side of the origin. I cannot. Important that you identify the region, well, otherwise you're going to have very little chance of success.
Yeah.
So, steady as stone, I'm shining like fire.
But it's X. Sam Heck.
85. I haven't heard that since my grandpa. What did you get?
Not what you thought.
You didn't, oh man, I got 145.769.
What is that? I didn't get.
Did I make an error? It's entirely possible I made an error. Let's see. So, do you agree with the region? It's this region here in green. Okay.
Oh my God.
Are we agreeing with the region? Okay. So now, when you go to revolve that, you do have a gap. Big R is constantly getting bigger. Big R is the curve, so y squared squared. And little r is always 1. And the height is dy because we're going around the y-axis. The limits, the region starts when x equals 1. Well, when x equals 1, y also equals 1. And it ends when y equals 3, as given. And so that's where I got my answer. So did I make an error, or do we agree with 145.769? Okay. All right. Please, just by way of not forgetting the pi, just type the pi in first. Don't say, I'll put it in later. You won't. You'll forget. Put pi in first, okay? This would be two regions. Let's go to the calculator one. I think that's the one we have most to gain from. Would you? Actually, in the interest of time, maybe... should we do one? So tomorrow we're going to do a whole extra practice on this, so you'll get plenty of practice. What's that? Maybe. I won't have to teach, so yeah. Wait, that's the powers of deduction right there, Wally. Good job. Okay, let's go to questions on 180. Shall we?
Just all of number 5.
All of number 5. Okay then. Other questions besides all of number 5?
The answer's to 17.
The answer's to 17. City of stars, are you shining bright for me?
And 19.
18 and 19?
No, 16.
16 and 19. 10-4, good buddy. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this is good stuff. So pharmaceutical company spends $100 million to develop a new drug. That would typically be called R&D. What does R&D stand for?
Research.
Research and development. Okay. A company usually researches a good 10 to 20 years to bring a drug to market. All right. So here we go. $100 million to develop a new drug. The raw materials to make the drug cost 40 cents. They sell each pill for $75. Cool. Give a function for the total cost of producing N pills. Is it total cost equals 0.4 N? No. Okay. Let's go here. How much does it cost to make no pills? I disagree. It costs $100 million to make no pills. How much does it cost to make one pill? How much does it cost to make one pill? $100 million and 40 cents. So, if I asked you, what's the cost per pill if you make one pill? The cost per pill is $100 million and 40 cents. Yes? What's the total cost if you make two pills? $100 million is 80 cents. What's the cost per pill if you make two pills? Which is? Come on, you're killing me.
$50
million and 40 cents. Okay. I won't even try 3. I guess I'll go to 4. If you make 4, what's the total cost of all pills? $100 million and 40 cents times 4. $1.60. What's the cost per pill if you make 4 pills? $25 million and 40 cents. If you make 10 pills, what's the cost per pill? $10 million and 40 cents. If you make 100 pills, what's the cost per pill?
How many?
$100 million and 40 cents. Are you going to have a lot of takers for the $100 million or the $1 million pill?
No.
Okay, probably not. Okay, so before you go and spend $100 million on R&D, the only way you're going to make a profit is if you can sell many of them. Do you agree?
Yes.
So if you're looking at a pretty rare disease that only affects 1,000 people, and only 2 of those can actually afford the pills, then would it pay to spend $100 million in R&D on that? Or on that money? Probably not. Okay. Furthermore, if you're not going to be able to sell pills at a million per pill, then I guess you're gonna have to hope to make tons of them, yeah? Economy of scale is what that's called, economy of scale. All right, you want to make tons of them in order for the cost per pill to get down there. So let's continue on. The total cost is $100 million plus 40 cents times however many pills you make. Now let's talk unit cost. Most books in econ or business calc would call that C bar. You could call it unit cost if you want, that's fine. The cost per pill, you would have to take the total. You okay, boy?
Keeps throwing my hat.
I don't. I usually this is an issue in 7th grade classes. Really? Yeah. Total cost divided by how many pills? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. If I take the total cost function, 40 cents per pill times number of pills plus 100 million divided by n. Let's rewrite that slightly different. What's another way to write that mathematically? 0.4 plus 100 million over n. What's going on there? The cost per pill amounts to the raw materials that pill cost plus the share of the 100 million R&D that pill bears, right?
Yes.
When you make one pill, then that one pill is filling that whole 100 million. But if you make 2 pills, then each of those pills is only filling 50. If you make 10 pills, each one is only filling 10 million. So the cost per pill is always going to be the cost of the actual physical components to the pill, and then its share of the R&D. You with me? All right. How many sales does the company, after how many sales does the company break even? There are some misstatements of vocabulary here. Does that mean profit equals expenses?
Yes.
No, it means profit equals 0. It means what equals what? Revenue equals expenses, okay? Profit is the difference between revenue and expenses. You will be breaking even when your revenue equals your expenses. What's the revenue? Function-wise. $75 per pill times the number of pills. The expenses. What's the expenses? It's the cost function. It's 40 cents per pill times the number of pills plus the $100 million startup. Okay, so if we solve this, that would mean something like 74.6 n equals 100 million. What does 74.6 represent? That's the net per pill, okay? You're making 75, you're paying 40 cents, you're making a net of $74.60 per pill. To make back that 100 million, you would have to sell, I would imagine that would be roughly close to divided by 100, so maybe a million plus, maybe 130 million. How many? Or sorry, 1.3 million, something like that. What do you got? Say it again. 34082. This? 480. 34. Oh, sorry. 48. Didn't somebody say 480? Whatever. Pills. Okay. That's a lot of pills, but there's a lot of people in the world, so that's a possibility. Not to mention most people don't buy one pill; they buy several pills. Is it right that it only costs them 40 cents to make a pill, and they're selling it for $75? A lot of people in the world can't buy $75 per pill times 100 pills. Is that right that they sell that? Did the pill cost them 40 cents to make? No, it cost them 100 million and 40 cents to make, right? So is it right that they sell it for $75? Okay. All right. So there's no, it's just an opinion to you and me, you know, it's up to you. I mean, are they there to make money? Yes. And if they sell it for 20 cents or 50 cents, are they gonna make money? No. Are they gonna be out of business and no longer be making these pills to help people?
Good morning, everyone.
So-
Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
D 40 cents.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You can argue once they made their money back, it's still gouge people, that's immoral. But I'm a terrible capitalist, so I would say yes.
Head on down to see your
Where's your question?
photographs and make sure to read the card.
Oh, I'm getting there. So, yes, you're right.
Close about now. Or at 8 p.m. to the Chipotle on Washington, Bellevue, Gold. You make 50% of sales. Take it for carryout if you want, but remember to mention Devlin Boy basketball before you pay. Thanks for your support.
Do you like Starbucks? What about free Starbucks? If so, submit your best Devlin Dash t-shirt design for the upcoming 2018 Dash. Simple and better. We can't
What is the cost per pill approach
t-shirts.
as you make
If your
infinitely
design is
money?
mixed, you will win a $50
$40 cents, and that's because that startup cost is being bared,
office by February 9th.
they're falling on so many pills, yeah?
And maybe edited or cropped to fit the parameters needed by our graphics designer.
Okay.
Please come support the girls basketball team at our one and only fundraiser for the season, Monday, February 5th from 4 to 8 p.m. at the Chipotle on Walkworth and Crestline, 8100 West Crestline Avenue, Unit A1. We hope to see you there.
Senior high students, high school girls interested in playing tennis, there is an informational meeting tomorrow during the 7th hour in the auditorium.
Hey guys, Devlin. Cheers, Sadie Hawkins Band is this Saturday from 7 to 10. Tickets will go on sale tomorrow at lunch. $10 then, $13.
These are all,
For those who just do
I would like you to have known the first one for sure. These two, this is medium, this we'll cover later, just kind of lay the groundwork.
Numerous scholarship opportunities are available to seniors such as the National Catholic Jewish Women's Seven Sisters Global Vita students and many more. Stop by Kaplan for further information.
Jefferson County Retired School Employees Association is awarding a scholarship to JEFCO students who demonstrate good citizenship within their community, having enjoyed a successful high school career, maintaining a 3.9 GPA, and have circumstances that affect your ability to pay for college. Deadline is March 30th. Counseling has applications.
Junior high students, the Devlin Junior High Boosters are hosting their sister social this Friday from 2:30 to 4 p.m. at the cafeteria. Lots of fun, including a rocking DJ, game opportunities to win gift cards, and of course, food. Tickets are $9 on repurchase during lunch this Wednesday through Friday.
Thanks to all of you who dressed up as Tacky Jewish Day. I love the fanny pack. Tomorrow's American Day, so don't forget. That's all your announcements. Have a great day, guys.
So something like, x squared plus x squared. Something like that. 5 fourths x squared equals 25. 5 times 4 fifths. You get the idea. X equals plus or minus root 20. There should be two places where probably first quadrant or second quadrant, and fourth quadrant where the slope can be 2. So don't give me 4 solutions. There should be 2. So probably root 20 negative y or negative root 20 positive. Find the one around. Okay? And 19. Area is always 100. Width is decreasing x. So dw dt is negative 0.8 centimeters per second. And the L dt is positive 5 centimeters per second. in terms of the area, you could substitute, oh, baby.
Whoa, hey.
Oh, man, I like it. Strangers in the night, voices wandering in the night. What were the chances we sharing love? Hi.
I heard this in
I'm not supportive of our choir endeavors when you spend so much time singing yourself, Mr. Gray.
I'm sorry?
Look, you're not supportive of our choir endeavors when you spend so much time singing this yourself.
Because I don't sing well. I said, why can't you suck like me? That's all I asked. Is that too much?
Would that bring you a little bit more?
choir just for strangers in the night.
Oh, I would go. I'd take it out myself to watch it.
First guy.
Yep.
Are you joking?
You wouldn't just be
Push
watching.
it off stage.
You like
This is my thing.
This is my show here, baby.